Hey, friends! I'm Jesse Fisco.
And I'm Ambry Fisco.
As founders of several successful businesses, we've experienced absolute joy and satisfaction working together to build our empire.
Our journey started off as a small business idea and has launched into a multi-million-dollar portfolio. It would have never been possible had Jesse and I not understood the key principles of making it all work together. But it has not been easy.
We found ourselves in the trenches trying to balance real life with business life while maintaining our strong commitment to creating an amazing marriage.
And we've emerged in a beautiful way together. This podcast was created to help you do what we've done, build an amazing marriage together while maintaining balance between life and business.
So here we are. You're listening to the Matrimonial Merger, a couple's guide to balancing life and business.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the Matrimonial Merger. Jesse and Ambry here, and today we are going to be talking about your decisions of regret and the importance of understanding where that regret's coming from, because you may be installing some programs in your mind by feeling regret that may not be serving you 100%. So we're going to be jumping right into today's episode, and let's get to it.
Awesome. I love it. And I'll add, with that, removing the second nature response of second guessing.
Second guessing,
so
yes.
That, anyways, yeah.
Super important.
Unpack this.
Well, I want to talk about this, and what started this whole idea is that we had someone recently reach out to us that had purchased something, and it was pretty expensive. They were so excited. This person, he was so excited for this purchase, and then ultimately, a few days later, felt regretful of this purchase. And we were asking him, why do you feel so regretful of this purchase? And some of the feelings that were shared was, well, I feel like my kids could have, they could have more, and I really don't need this. And I truthfully just don't know why I bought it. It was kind of a dumb, impulsive decision is what they labeled it. And kind of led both of us to ask, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
What really started that decision in the first place to buy this item? Was it really impulsive, or is it something you truly wanted? And
it's a great question, though.
It was a very interesting conversation to be had. So we're going to unpack that a little bit today and explain the issues that are associated with that, as well as some things to consider.
Yeah. And it is important to not be making an impulsive decision, right? I mean, those cannot necessarily be the smartest decisions if they're, if you lack research or data, if you don't really know what you're doing, if you don't know if it's truly what you want, then maybe don't make that impulsive decision, right? But if it's what you want,
right,
you're going towards it.
Exactly. And you see, the problem I see with this is, number one, you're installing a mental program that is a program of undeserving. And the fact that you aren't deserving of that very item that you want, which is a huge deal, right? That may be a part of the reason why you're not feeling love in your home, a love for others, or even a love for yourself. That may be one of the reasons why you have a certain physique, right? That may be attributing to the way you eat and the way you dress and your confidence level. And so by installing that program of undeservingness, it's really not helping you. And what does that look like? I mean, it can't be very good, right?
Totally. And I would suggest that if you are not, if you're second guessing yourself, are you even committed to that end goal or where you're going, the outcome? You're not committed to the outcome if you're second guessing yourself.
Right.
And if you're not committed to that outcome, then what?
Right. And
it's how bad do you want it, I guess, or how good do you want it? But if you're not committed, you're second guessing. And then you're maybe you didn't even know what you wanted in the first place, or like you said, you truly don't believe that you deserve it. And that's a problem.
Yeah, totally is. And how many of you right now second guess yourself? And along with that, feel a lack of confidence. And along with that, feel like you're giving your all to everyone else.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you, do these all have a correlation with the way you treat yourself? right?
Good question.
All of them come back to you. And you see, the issue is when you start to backtrack, once you've made the decision and you start to backtrack and regret it, even if it's 6 months down the road, oh, I should have never bought that vehicle. What you're doing is you're just going into the past. Mm-hmm. And that past is like, yes, you've experienced some feedback, but now you're installing programs for your future. You're limiting your future right before your eyes by being regretful of your decisions.
Right.
And I think it's a very interesting concept, because if you're working on your path of becoming and you're trying to change to become a better person, and yet you have a lot of regret from your past, those two can't go hand in hand. So, like, no wonder you feel misaligned, or there's parts of you that want something and part of you that want something bigger. And that's really what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, I like it. And when you like lean into the doubt, you know, you're letting go of a sense of control, right? And we all like to be in control in whatever way we can and, you know, have like power and decisiveness over like our life and our choices. And when you allow, you know, a certain amount of doubt to creep in, you're completely letting go of that control that you could have.
Absolutely. So. It reminds me this morning, like, it's cold, it's snowing, it's no fun. It's 4:30 in the morning, the alarm goes off, and the decision
stayed up too late.
Yeah, I stayed up till 11. The decision was, do I get up and go to the gym? And I remember that faint thought that came through that was like, oh man, just sleep in, you can go do it later. And I had to remind myself in that moment of thinking, like, hold on here. I don't have later, because I'm going to be busy all afternoon. Yeah. There's no way I'm going to get to the gym tonight. Sure, I could go play basketball at 9 o'clock at night, but that's not on my journey of becoming, because I'm going to stay up till midnight. Then what? Tuesday, when there's no basketball, what am I going to find myself doing? Sleeping in and missing the gym again. That's 2 days in a row. And I had to remind myself that and say, I need to be here.
What's cool about that, though, is like, as you're saying that, I'm, you know, thinking of similar situations I've experienced. And like, how long does it take for all of those thoughts and information to cross through your brain? Not very long.
Right.
Like, it's like, boom, boom, boom. This could happen. That could happen. I've got this going on. Like, you're filtering through this data very quickly. Mm-hmm. And so your decision can be made very quickly.
Very quickly.
You have the resources, the data, the information. Your mind is kind of like reminding you, processing it and going, if I want to go to the gym, if this is what I want this morning, then I got to go now. Or if this is what I want in my day, I've got to go now. It has to happen this morning, regardless if I'm tired, if this or that. Like, I've got to power through and make the decision and go for it. So, like, if you have the information and data in your mind behind what you want, which in your case was like, I want to go to the gym, I want to feel my best. And if you have all that information there, it doesn't take very long for your mind to go like, yeah, this is the decision we need to make.
Right.
So.
And it was interesting because the switch flipped for me. The minute I said, no, I actually need to go, then I was motivated to
go.
The
energy comes.
Right,
like,
the energy came.
The resources flow.
And a lot of times, you've got to just say it out loud, too, because your words project what you believe internally. Yeah. So if you're projecting outward, then it's telling your unconscious mind that, hey, we're actually going to do this. Yeah. Like, I'm committed. And the thing is the goal here, and what we hope to help you understand throughout listening to these podcasts here, is to get to the point where your unconscious mind just listens to you. When you say we go, it means we go. Yeah. And you don't have those second thoughts of going to the gym. It becomes just natural habit. And one of the people, since we're on the topic of the gym right now, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I heard an interview from him recently, and they asked, do you still go to the gym? And he says, every day, just like I eat breakfast, right? It was so ingrained in him. They asked why, and he's like, why do I eat breakfast? Like, he got to the point where eating food and the gym were on the same wavelength. Yeah. And that's what we're hoping to get with this episode here and with other podcasts, is to show you that you have power to get to that point where it just becomes natural and you're just crazy, awesome at whatever you do. You know, crazy in all the good ways. Yeah. I mean, something that's been interesting today too, I'm going to go off on another little tangent because I feel like we haven't talked, but this is like our conversation here. is I was playing basketball this morning, and I got up and I blocked a shot, and I jumped a lot higher than I did. I fell to the ground, and it was funny because everyone's like, "You all right? You good?" Like, it wasn't a hard fall. I was just kind of sitting there for a second, and they're like, "You good?" And I just said, "Yeah, I just needed a moment to celebrate the fact that I've never jumped that high before." And one of the guys looked at me, and he's like, "Man, even when you fall, you're complimenting yourself." He's like, "You're so full of yourself." And I had to remind him, I said, "Is it full of myself, or is it appreciation for
gratitude
for the things that have become, like, because of my dedication?" It was hilarious though, because to some it came off as very arrogant, like, man, even you fall on the floor and you're still looking for ways to like talk yourself up. But that was the thing, is like, I unconsciously just paid myself a compliment in wow. I can't even say it. In like sincere gratitude.
That's cool.
It was awesome.
And I like that because like studies have shown that like gratitude is powerful. So powerful. So what's interesting about that situation is like naturally a lot of people's response was like, "Oh, you're so full of yourself." When realistically, like you could look at that and go like, I mean, you could have been like mad that you fell. You could have been mad at like maybe someone else in your environment who contributed to that fall, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, you could choose to be in an unresourceful state and be upset and be, mad about it or whatever, and let it literally trickle into like your morning, your day, or whatever. Instead, you're like, "Oh, I've never even jumped that high." Like that's like, that's gratitude. Like,
that was pretty cool.
That's really cool. I like that.
And it was interesting just because of like the environment, of course, like the gentleman that said that, like, no disrespect to him.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure it was
clearly like you could tell that there's areas of self-confidence where he lacks. And,
and beyond that, like it's just a installed program response too.
Sure.
Like, I mean, we see other people respond in that sort of way. You don't even have to think about it, that's what you're going to say or do in that situation. So that's a whole nother topic, but like, nothing wrong with his response. Right. But, it does make you curious.
It does. Like, and that was the thing that I wanted to hit home here, is the fact that you have these decisions, right? And these decisions become easier over time. Your self-love becomes easier over time as you continue to work towards your decisions. Like, I'm now looking at all the things my body is capable of doing because I've been dedicated to going to the gym. So now I'm like more the gratitude just continues to come of the amazing capabilities that I can do, or things I haven't been able to do on a basketball court or in a gym before. And the gratitude's there because I'm working towards something. And it's like a fire. It's amazing. But the one thing I'm going to say is, with your decisions, like your decisions to start, you need to find what it is you truly want. And after you figure that out, you need to remind yourself of the outcome, what it is you're working towards. And like the more you understand that, the less regret you're going to have.
Yeah.
The
start and then the commitment, right?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, the stress and anxiety behind second guessing alone should like give you motivation to stop it. Like, because if you think about any time that you've like made a decision, you've gone, anytime you fall back into like second guessing or wondering like, was it the right choice, this or that? Like, I'm not saying that this is always a bad thing, right? Like sometimes we receive validation when we go back and look at a decision we made and we're like, wow, like, so glad I did that, right? So like, I'm not saying it's always a bad thing, but like, I think in general, it becomes, a cause of a lot of stress and anxiety, because it's like, well, if you already made the choice and you're on this path and you're going towards what you want, like why, especially when in a lot of cases, it's not going to change the outcome or change anything by you sitting there and going like, oh my gosh, oh crap, like what did I do? It's like, well, you already did, like, so move forward, adjust if you need to, change things if you need to, add additional process, whatever it is, but keep going, like stay committed, move forward, and, spare yourself the stress and anxiety that comes from, wondering and second guessing.
And the thing is all that energy that's wasted too, right?
Yes.
How are you going to become the person you want to be, your highest and best self, if you're wasting your energy focusing on the past decisions you made.
Yeah.
At some point, you've got to let it go.
Right.
And the more you sit there and stew over it and allow those emotions and the chemicals within your body to react based off your brain sending signals to your body and then your body sending signals to your brain, at some point, you've got to stop that because it's going to then start to affect your mood and then start affecting your day. And if it affects your day, it can move into your week. And if it affects your week, it can move into your month and then to your personality.
Literally change your personality.
It literally could change your personality. And that's the thing is you've got to focus on the outcome that you truly want and live without the regret. Sure, there may be some relationships that you need to cut ties to. I've done that 3 times in the last week. It's not been fun as far as cutting ties with people, not because that they're bad or anything, but they are not going to assist us on our journey.
Even if it's not cutting ties, it's creating boundaries and having, like sticking to your plan, your trajectory, right? Like that's super important.
You're right. And that was one of the major things. Like we've stopped a couple of our businesses, and that was once again the reason why is because these businesses were not on the path of what we were trying to become and what we were working towards. And therefore, like, although profitable, although a decent business, like the time and the effort and the energy was not put there because it wasn't in our journey of becoming. So at some point you had to make the decision just to let it go.
Yeah. And then once you make that decision, like full steam ahead on where your, priority is and where your energy, where you want your energy to be.
Absolutely.
And then, you can't look back and wonder and go, what if I didn't do that? Or what if this, or what if that? And I mean that in the best way possible. Once again, like, I think that a lot of times that can just become so negative and create a lot of negative energy. One thing that like Jesse said a lot lately is like, what are we not considering? Right. So like applying that to this, I'm thinking like by sitting and either A, not making a decision, or B, like stewing over the decision that's been made, like what are you missing out on? What opportunities or things are you not seeing because you're so hyper focused on like things that really either don't matter or you need to just move forward with.
Right.
And so that like to me, like, because, I can have FOMO, I go like, what am I missing by like just not being resourceful and by sitting here and like worrying, second guessing, worrying, stressing, like filling myself with worry and anxiety? Like, what am I missing out on because I'm in that kind of a state?
Yeah. What's interesting too is like all the things you worry and stress out about, if you actually go do the thing in about 6 months, you're not going to remember all those things. You're only going to remember the positive that came from it. Like we have a family vlog and our kids love watching the Disneyland cruise that we did. And I just can see myself like I look tired, I look exhausted, but I don't remember anything of that trip other than the positives. And our kids watch that thing at least once a day. They have for like the last 3 months. And so clearly our kids have great memories from that as well. And there's never any negative. But see, like by you sitting there regretting or feeling remorseful for going on that vacation, like see it from a different lens, please, because everyone else around you is seeing it in a positive way. And if you're having remorse or regret over the fact that you didn't do this or say this or capture that perfect picture, whatever the case, you're living so far in the past that you've got to learn to come to the present moment. Yeah. And look at what's around you. Like,
I like that. And
that's so incredibly powerful.
It is. And like speaking of that specific vacation, like that was a big deal for us. And I like it. Sometimes you got to take a step back and like remind yourself what you're doing, why you're here. Like, like this specific vacation that we went on, like I remember like we're now in 2022, 2 years ago in 2020, especially in the spring when like COVID broke out, like there was so much uncertainty. And I remember like, we were thinking like, when are we going to plan our next cruise? Like we love to go on a vacation and do something fun. Like, and that was not like a thing at that point. Right. Like we were like, we can't go on a cruise now. Like everything's shut down. Will we ever be able to do that? We don't know. right? Like there was a lot of uncertainty, and, you know, that was a strange time in a lot of ways. And then fast forward 2 years and we're going on this Disney cruise that we've like dreamed of, and, you know,
which we won, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
cool
we
too.
did. We won that by hitting certain goals in one of our businesses. But yeah, like I remember going on this vacation. Like, I mean, anyone who's traveled with kids knows that there's gonna be ups and downs. There's gonna be like moments where you're like, what are we doing? But stay focused on, you know, the outcome, right?
Yeah.
But where I'm going with that is like in those moments, specifically on this vacation, I remember us sitting here going like, okay, as like challenging as this might seem right now, like this is getting us where we want to go on the boat, on the cruise, right? And also 2 years ago, we didn't even know if we were going to be able to do that ever again. So once again, going back to that gratitude of like, look what we're doing that we didn't know if we'd even be able to do, even though like there was one point where we had been standing in line for 3 hours because, you know, there was a lot of restrictions still. We had to stand in line for a COVID test. Like it was a little hectic, like to be honest, with kids. Like it was nuts. However, like, you know, some might say like that's a crappy situation. We just shouldn't have done this. Like this was a bad idea. Whereas like, I think because we could take a step back and look at like what we'd been through the last 2 years, the time when we thought maybe this would never happen, and then looking at where we are right now, no matter what you're going through or what it looks like, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And you're there and you're creating the memory, the experience, the business, the idea, like you're creating something. And so sometimes I think it just takes like, take a step back, chunk up a little bit, like look at like what it is that you are doing. Give yourself some like gratitude. Give gratitude for where you've come from and where you're going. And I think sometimes we forget to do that because it's like you see where you want to go. Stay focused on that. I'm not saying like don't take your eye off the prize, but realize where you are and how that's getting you there.
Yeah.
And be grateful for that.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that feeling of remorse or that feeling of, just regret comes because you're not aligned with what you truly want to. And so you find yourself feeling bad because you know that you could have done so much more.
Yeah.
And like you didn't, right? And that's why you're feeling this way. But my question is that wrong? Like that you didn't do more, does that make it bad? Does that make it that you have to feel regret? Or can you learn from that opportunity and say, you know what, next time I'm going to do this, and look towards the future, look towards, oh, hey, you know what? Like I didn't do very well on this cruise. I could have done a lot better. I could have looked a lot better. And instead of every time I see myself in the camera or in that photo, instead of saying, man, I should have lost weight, I should have done this, remind yourself of the journey that you're going, the becoming, the Jesse that's becoming his highest and best self is this. Therefore, I took that feedback and I learned from it. There's nothing wrong with that photo.
No.
But that is a past that I am working from and I'm working towards what I want.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing is like, you don't feel regret when you know what you want and you're working towards it.
Yeah. And specifically like speaking of, maybe seeing a photo of yourself or whatever, like anything, apply it to whatever it is that you're going through right now. But like, I love what you said, because if you can take that and create it to be like fuel under your feet to get you where you want to go, rather than just dwelling on like, that's not what you want, right? We've talked about this before. Like, don't focus on what you don't want, right? Like that's the first thing. Get rid of that mindset. Like focus on what you do want, go towards what you do want, and don't dwell on the things that you don't like. Oh, I don't want to look like that. I don't want my business to function like this. I don't want, well, okay, that's great. Like, what do you want then? Like Jesse and I were having a conversation today around parenting where it's like, certain things come up as a parent that seem a little unprecedented. And it's like, oh man, like how do I navigate through this? And like this morning, I was talking to Jesse, like, okay, here's what I don't want. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I think sometimes it's okay if you say those things, but then shift it into like, okay, I don't want this. Now here's what I do want. Yeah. And allow your mind to go into the positive of like, here's what I want. And this is how, I'm going to become curious and resourceful about getting there. And, I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like sometimes, like, as humans, like, naturally, we kind of need to recognize, like, all right, here's what's happening. I don't want this. Now let's focus on what I want. So, but don't forget that transition. If you need to express what it is you don't want, don't forget to transition into what you do want. Because once again, like Jesse mentioned a few minutes ago, like, if a lot of times the issue of second guessing and the worry and the stress behind that comes from not knowing what it is that you do want.
Right.
And you might be running away from what you don't, but you're not going towards what you do.
Right. Well, and I read something too, and I'm going to botch the number, but it was in the 80%. So like 80% plus, give or take nine numbers, but you're within an 80 to 90% range of making the right decision the first time. And that's where, if you just actually made the decision to move forward, you could 100%. Save yourself so much time. You want to know why things are easier for other people, or maybe some of your peers, is the reason is they've learned this skill, and they've learned to just make their decision, stick with their decision, feel no regret, don't look back, and continue to move forward. And you want to know why things seem so easy for people? It's because they made a decision. They didn't look back.
Yeah.
Like, I've had recently someone said, everything Ambry and Jesse touch turns to gold. Well, it's because we make a decision and we implement it fast. We don't sit there and think about all the what ifs and the negative or all the bad things. And the times that we do, you would know in our home, because in our home, the energy is sucked out of the freaking stratosphere of our house, because you can tell there's a lot of like just being lethargic. There's no energy. And it's because we're deep in thought and a decision. And then we get into an analysis paralysis. And this doesn't happen very often, but when it does,
Yeah.
It is. And people will ask us, is everything okay? And it's like, oh yeah, everything's fine. Yeah. But there's obviously something on my mind that's or yours, that we're portraying a different energy or a different aura.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to go through those emotions, right? Like, to get to the outcome that you want. And I think just a reminder that we're all human, we all have like these experiences, these emotions, these things that we have to refine and learn what to do with them. Right. Mm-hmm. And although you learn tools and you like reprogram, like there may be new circumstance, new environment that like causes your mind or body to like fall back on a, previous response. And then that's where extreme growth happens, is when then you can take that and go, okay, where am I going from here? Because, you have two directions you can choose to go. Yeah. Are you going to be resourceful or unresourceful? Are you going to, succumb to your, prior habit and just like be like, whatever, like I give up? Or are you going to like stop it and say, you know what? No, I want this instead. Yep. Actually read about a study that was done in 2018 that talked about like when you like revisit your decision or like second guess, it actually makes the likelihood of you making like the best decision go like way down. Like, so trust your gut, like trust yourself too. And I think sometimes we like get out of tune with ourselves. And this, I mean, my thoughts right now are a little all over the place, but like, I think this is one reason why Jesse and I have really like leaned into a lot of like mental health and, improving our environment this year, and just doing meditation, just changing our environment and the things that we are associating with for our mental health. Because if you can trust yourself and your instincts, like you will make better decisions. 100%. You will like know what you want and you'll go after it. Yeah. And so I thought that was interesting. I like don't have all the details about the study, but I just read about it on an article I was reading, and it was like, wow, like if you second guess or revisit your initial decision, likely, the chances of making the best decision go way down. And we've experienced that like in our real estate profession a lot of times. Like there's been so many times when like someone gets a really, really good offer on their house, and depending on the market, depending on like information and what's going on, like if they pass on that, that was their best shot, and like obviously there's a lot that goes into that. Like if you know there's more offers coming, like sure, wait for them. But if you don't know of anything else coming and you have a really good offer, like negotiate it, make it work.
Yep.
And this isn't like maybe what we suggest 100% of the time, but many situations that's been the case where it's like, you know, the first thing or the first thing that comes to your mind is oftentimes the best. Now, like on the topic of real estate, like if you're looking for a house and, you know, let's say your budget is $900,000, you're like probably shouldn't go buy a house that's $2 million because it's out of your budget, right? So like if you're looking at houses that are $2 million, like you're not doing yourself any favors, right? So like don't make dumb decisions or like irrational decisions. Make sure you have the data, but if you know what you want, it's going to be there and the decision will be quick. So if you know your budget's $900,000, you want 4 bedrooms, you want, you know, a pool or whatever it is, like if you've got that information of what you want, like when you find that house, boom, there you go. But you're not wasting your time outside of the parameters of your, like what you want. Yeah. And that's where the doubt comes in.
It's interesting. Let me kind of share a quick story of something that's happened to us recently.
Okay.
Is we had this conversation of like, okay, do we buy this car and do we pay for someone to coach us in the public speaking space? Do we do this? And it was a very, you know, detailed question. We focused on it, looked at it, and we said, is this what we're becoming? Yes. Is this going to make us feel better? Yes. Okay, great. We made the decision. I remember getting the receipt. You texted me and you're like, oh, you did it. Yeah, of course we did it. It made all the sense in the world, right? Let me explain to you. I've been enrolled in this public speaking for 3 weeks. 3 weeks is all. And I've had two calls, and I'm already designing the talk. And within that, I had someone that I was working with on Saturday, right? So Saturday of last week, I was working with them and just said, yeah, I'm doing public speaking. I'm not sure what my schedule is going to look like next year. It's going to be up in the air because I'll be flying around doing more public speaking events. I've put in a lot more effort into this area because I feel more people need to hear our message. And ironically, she looks at me and she goes, really, you do public speaking? Yes, I do. And she's like, I actually host, like I'm the one that puts together and hosts a public speaking event for my company. And she's like, would fly you out. We'll, talk to you, have you give a discussion. We'll put your family, we'll give you all the food, we'll give you all this stuff. And I was like, cool, that sounds great. Let's do it. And she's like, does $30,000 sound enough? You guys, the public speaking course was $12,000, $13,000. Like, good things come to those that make decisions.
Yeah. Well,
there's no freaking coincidence.
Yeah.
And so we're already in the discussion of getting me booked in September of next year and $30,000 to go speak.
All because you're putting your energy towards what it is that you want.
What it is that you want.
Now, like, that is not to say that in that moment, in that day when we had all these financial decisions coming in and we had to make the choice, that we weren't both a little like, okay, like, I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say that there was like a little bit of like blind faith, just like, let's go, like jump, like, I mean, I can't say that that's not how it is, right? Because fast forward 3 weeks, I would have never known that like this would happen and that this would be the outcome and that you would already have someone reaching out to you. Like I couldn't have 100% predicted that, right?
Right.
But now sitting here looking back, I go like, wow, how do we not made that decision? Yeah. Who knows? We may not be here. And now gratitude for the decision made and what things are following because of that.
Yeah.
And focusing on the positive, right? Because if you want to, if you try to, you will and you can find the negative. Like we could take this exact situation you just shared. We could find negative things about it. I'm sure we could if we wanted to.
Right.
We don't. So we don't do it, right? But like you got to focus your energy on the positive and towards where you're going. And it makes all the difference.
It totally does. And like the funny thing is I jumped in the car and Ambry had something she wanted to tell me. And there was a little bit of like energy there that we were trying to work through. And, sitting in the car for 20 minutes with kids while, we were waiting on an appointment is not easy. But after we worked through it and we shared it, we were both just like, holy crap, how amazing is this. Like, had we not made that decision, we're still talking about, obviously it made it to our podcast. Like, you trust yourself. Think about it. Like, we all have that friend or that person we idolize, and they would call us up and say, hey, let's go do this. And you would drop everything and go do it. Why are you so attracted to that person? It's because they love you and they want you to be there, and you will do anything. Like, I have a friend, if he calls me up and says, hey, let's go first sip, essentially go jump in the car and go to Maverick at 8 o'clock at night to get a soda, I will drop pretty much everything and go, because I admire that person and I like it. Now imagine if you had that relationship with your unconscious mind where you said, hey, we're going to do this. And all of a sudden your unconscious mind's like, freak out, let's do it, right?
And if you know, like, because, I mean, think about, that's powerful, because you think about sometimes, and I think we have touched on this in a previous episode, but we put a lot of trust in other people and in other, like, things, right? Like, you can look at someone and you can say, like, that person has my best interest in mind. I know I could trust them with this or this or that. I know that, like, you know, if my back goes up against a wall, like, they would know what to do. They have my best interest. Do we give ourselves that kind of, you know, love, power, whatever you want to call it? Like, do you believe and trust yourself that you have your best interest in mind, and that you want to give yourself what you want and deserve, and that you can create it? And if you believe that, think of, like, I mean, that's powerful. It's almost hard to comprehend. Yeah. Because I think we've been programmed so much to doubt. Right. You know, rather than trust and believe. And, like, that's so incredibly powerful, because gosh, I think one of our first episodes was like, it's all about you, right? Yeah. So, and it was like, we talked a lot about, like, you know, you got to look out for yourself. You got to give yourself what you need, but you can't love your neighbor as yourself if you don't love yourself. Right. And if you're not trusting yourself, like, you put trust in other people, I mean, it's kind of funny to talk about because it sounds crazy. Why would you? It
sounds simple too, right?
It sounds dumb. Like, why would you look at another person and be like, I could trust them with this? Like, they have my best interest in mind. Like, they could make this decision. They could do this. Like, why are you not giving that to yourself? Yeah. Man, it's
crazy. If you had a relationship with yourself as you did with your best friend, your opportunities would be endless. I listen to Tony Robbins, and I've mentioned this before. The guy jumps in an ice bath every morning. Like, I'm looking outside. There's snow outside. My gosh, it's freezing. And the idea of jumping outside, like, in underwear just to take an ice bath sounds like death. But the reason why he does it is he is training his unconscious mind and his body to, when I say I go, I mean I go. And that's what you guys need to get to. You need to get to that point where you trust yourself. When you say, hey, we're going to put $20,000 down on a coaching program, you go and you do it. And it makes sense for you. And you know that this will be the best decision you've ever made in your life, because you've learned to trust yourself. And because you've learned that, how are you not going to win?
And you're investing in yourself. I think a lot of times, going back to the trust in other people, I mean, how many of us invest in other people and in other people's ideas, other people's, like...
You all do it by investing in the stock market.
I mean, we all do it in some way. Yep. Whether it's, like, the gym you pay for, whether it's this. I mean, it's a great thing. It's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, right? But, like, think about the power behind the same amount of time, money, and energy you spent investing in other people. You could also invest in yourself. Yeah. What could you do?
Jeez. It would be so cool. Like, my wish and hope is to see everyone listening to this podcast in a room where we can all just feed off of each other's energy and experience greatness, and to hear each other's background and to experience what a higher level of life would be like. Maybe just in, like, a 1 day, a 2 hour, like even an hour, just to experience that would be, like, the ultimate gift that I think all of us could receive, that we could give ourselves. And I just want to say, like, you have the capability. The more energy you spend analyzing, like Ambry said, the less likely you are to actually accomplish that thing. And imagine, just for a moment, you were able to say, yes, I want this, you buy it. then all of a sudden you're given some feedback, maybe something that's pushing you a little bit, and you say, you know what? No, I love myself, and I'm not going to think that way. And you walk away feeling a higher level of self-esteem for yourself because you bought whatever it was, or you told yourself you deserve it. And then when the opportunity came to say yes or to ask a client for a little bit more money on the proposal, whatever the case, you had more confidence, and the client or whoever it was that you were asking for more money from said yes because of your confidence. Just imagine that. And imagine the money you asked for was the exact same, or if not more, of the amount of the thing you told yourself you deserved.
Yeah. Well, and imagine like if you are putting that much trust in yourself along with others, why wouldn't other people, put that trust in you? Because if you trust yourself and you have created that much clarity in your life, your business, your relationships, that's going to reciprocate from other people.
One of our greatest coaches told us the reason why people pay extreme amount of money or listen to people speak is because they sense a certainty that person has that they don't have in themselves, and people crave certainty. You want that. So imagine being able to be certain in yourself and stepping out from the ranks of, I'm going to follow Jesse and Ambry on this podcast. Imagine stepping out and saying, I'm actually going to serve.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing for you?
To do the purpose that I was put here to do.
Yeah. Instead of
following my highest purpose.
Fulfilling your highest purpose.
Not someone else's.
Just imagine that for a moment, that the certainty in yourself was so high that you had no limitation. Wouldn't that be amazing? There'd be no regret. There'd be no remorse for the decisions you made because you know you're becoming the best version of you. Yeah. And that's how I want to end this show. I think that everyone listening to this podcast can walk away feeling elevated and remember that remorse or regret is a sign of misalignment.
It doesn't serve you.
It doesn't serve you. And remorse and regret will only end up installing negative programs in the future that you'll have to work through anyways.
Allow yourself learning and move forward.
Yeah, give yourself permission to win. We say this like almost every episode, right? Just do it already. Give yourself the permission to win and to be certain in what you believe. Give yourself a shot. Your body and mind are higher, like they are, they are celestial, right? They are a higher source of energy that you don't even understand. I don't even fully understand, but the more I'm understanding, the more I'm just like, holy crap, right? Like, it blows my freaking mind. You have that inside of you. And that's what we want to resonate and have percolate this week with you guys, is you have greater opportunities ahead of you. Just trust yourself.
I love it. Hope you guys all have a great week. Thank you for being here. And just all the gratitude for everyone. And as Christmas is approaching, just hope that everyone gets to spend some time with those that you desire to spend time with, and with your family, your friends, your kids, like all the memories and joy that you can experience. And as you design that, it will happen. And
totally.
Just, yeah.
I agree 100%. If we've struck a chord with you today, please share this episode.
Yeah, please do. Reach out to us.
Give us your honest feedback of how we're doing, because the more people reach out, the more amazing content we can tailor towards your needs and help.
That's where this comes from. Literally, like straight experience that we, have with other people, with ourselves, with conversations. Like, so, yeah. Don't be strangers.
Yep.
And thanks.
Oh, go ahead.
The awkward moment when we both talk at the same time.
Yeah.
No, thanks for being here. And anything else, Jesse, to wrap this up?
No, we just appreciate you and look forward to talking to you next week.
Okay. Have a great week.